Getting rich has little to do with how smart you are. It's about how you think. And most of us were taught to think like poor people without even realizing it. That's why I'm sharing the key lessons from Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by Harv Eker. This book has helped millions shift from a poor mindset to a rich one. So, let us start. Part 1. How rich people think and act. Trait number 1. Rich people manage their money well. Poor people mismanage their money well. Imagine you're buying an ice cream cone for your 5-year-old son. The seller puts a single scoop on a cone. A few seconds later, splat! It's on the ground. He starts crying, "I want 3 scoops!" Would you buy him 3? Of course not. If he can't handle 1, how can he handle 3? Look, the same thing applies to money. Until you show you can manage what you've got, you won't get more. So, how exactly do you manage your money? Here's what Harv suggests. Every time you get paid, divide it like this. 50% goes into your expense account. 10% goes into your financial freedom account. This money is only to be used for investing to reach financial freedom. 10% goes into your long-term savings for big purchases like a house or a car. 10% goes into your education account, buy a course, a book, or anything that could increase your skills or income. 10% to help others. And here's one important account that people miss: the play account. Spend 10% on something that makes you feel rich, like going to a fine restaurant, staying in a high-class hotel for a fun, extravagant night. Look, some people save, and while their responsible self is fulfilled, their inner spirit is not. Eventually, this fun-seeking side will say, "What the hell, I've had enough, I want some attention too," and sabotage their results. Okay, now you might say, this only works if you're already making a lot of money. But the truth is that the habit matters more than the amount. Whether you're starting with $50 or $5,000 a month, you divide it the same way. Most importantly, build the habit of managing your money well. Show the universe you can handle what you have, and it will give you more. Trait number 2, rich people think big, poor people think small. When Harv set up his first fitness store, he was already thinking of opening 100 stores. He wanted to impact tens of thousands of people. On the other hand, his competitor just wanted 1. So, what happened after some time? The competitor earned a good living, and Harv, he got rich. So, here's the lesson. Rich people think big, poor people think small. There's a law of income that says the more people you impact, the more you'll earn. Think about this. Some trainers prefer teaching small groups, 20 people at a time. Others handle 100, 500, even 5,000 in the room. Do they earn the same? Not even close. When you help more people, you earn more. Most people choose to play small. And there are 2 reasons for that. First, because they're afraid they might fail. Second, because they feel small. They don't feel they're good enough to make a difference in people's lives. Look, you don't just scale for money. You scale because life isn't just about you. It's about serving others. Your talents are gifts to be shared. So, here's what you can do. Think like rich people. They don't ask, "How can I help 1?" They ask, "How can I help 1,000,000 people?" Trait number 3, rich people are willing to promote themselves and their value. Poor people think negatively about selling and promotion. During the Millionaire Mind seminar, Harv would take a few minutes to share about other courses he offered. Most people got excited. They loved hearing about it. They wanted to know what else they could learn. But for some people, they got upset. They hated the promotion regardless of how much it might have benefited them. People who have issues with selling and promotion are usually broke. How can you create a large income in your business if you aren't willing to let people know that your product or service exists? Look, If you have a cure for cancer and you met someone who is suffering from it, would you hide it from them? Would you wait for them to read your mind and guess that you had something that could help? That person would suffer more because you were too shy, too afraid, or too cool to promote. If you want to be rich, you've got to be good at promoting. Even Robert Kiyosaki, author of Rich Dad Poor Dad, points out that he's a best-selling author, not a best-writing author. So instead of seeing promotion as something pushy, start seeing it as a service. Ask yourself, if this could genuinely help someone, why would I hold back? Trait number 4, rich people think both. Poor people think either or. Let me ask you this. Are your legs more important or your eyes? You'd probably say, what kind of stupid question is that? Of course, both are important. And you're absolutely right. Both are important. In the same way, both money and happiness are important. Both success and family are important. You don't have to pick one. If I asked whether you'd rather grow your business or enjoy your life, and you chose only one, that's a poor person's mindset. Rich people choose both. They believe in abundance. They always ask, how can I have both? Poor people don't believe in abundance. They think they have to choose either this or that. Harv once told his parents that he didn't want to work at a job he didn't enjoy, and he would get rich doing what he loved. But his parents replied, son, you're living in a dream world. You can't have both. First, you have to earn a living. Then, if there's any time left over, you can enjoy your life. But Harv still decided he wanted both money and happiness. Of course, at first, he had to go through a job he hated to pay the bills, but he never lost the intention of having both. And eventually, he became rich doing what he loved. So next time you're faced with a tough choice, ask yourself, how can I have both? You'll be surprised how often there's a way to have both. You just never thought to look for it. This small shift in mindset changes everything, because most of us were raised to believe life is either or, success or family, money or happiness. But the truth is, the moment you start asking, how can I have both? Your brain begins to find creative answers. Maybe not right away, but it leaves that question in your subconscious, and ideas will start to surface. Trait number 5. Rich people admire other rich and successful people. Poor people resent them. When Harv was broke and driving a normal car, driving was easy. But when he got rich and bought a new black Jaguar, driving got tough. People cut him off, flipped him the finger, even threw things at his car. One time, as he was driving through a lower-end neighborhood, a group of guys tried to shoot beer cans into his sunroof, and they yelled at him, "You rich bastard!" Another time, the entire side of the car was scratched with a key. So, here's what he did. After several days, he came back to the same neighborhood, but this time he rented a cheap car. Amazingly, nothing happened. Look, Harv isn't saying that poor neighborhoods have bad people, but in his experience, he realized that many people resent the rich. Honestly, I used to do that too. Whenever I saw a young guy with an expensive car, I would automatically say to myself, who knows what kind of illegal things he's doing to buy a car like that? I would judge and resent the guy without even knowing the person. But here's the brutal truth. You cannot attract what you resent. If you see something good and you hate it, you'll never get it. If you resent rich people, if you believe they're greedy or dishonest, you'll never let yourself become one. There's an ancient wisdom that says, bless that which you want. So the next time you see a big house, be happy for it. See a nice car? Be happy for it. See someone with a thriving business? Wish them well and really mean it. Say to yourself, good for them. That's coming my way too. You'll eventually attract things you bless into your own life. Trait number 6. Rich people focus on their net worth. Poor people focus on their working income. Let's make this super simple. First, what exactly is net worth? Here's the easiest way to understand it. If you make $3,000 a month and you spend it all, your net worth is 0. But if you make $1,000 and save $200, your net worth is $200. Now imagine this. If you sold everything you own right now, your car, your house, your stuff, and then paid off all your debts, how much money would you have left? That number is your net worth. And that number is what truly matters, because it's what you actually keep. So, how do you build your net worth? It's simple. Step 1, focus on how much you keep every month. High income means nothing if you spend it all. Step 2, use that saved up money to buy assets, things that put money into your pocket, like investments or small income sources. That's how rich people think. They buy assets, things that grow their net worth. On the other hand, poor people buy liabilities that shrink their net worth. Even if you're 18 and have a negative net worth, you can start today to grow it. Here's a simple exercise. Grab a piece of paper and draw a vertical line. At the bottom, write 0. At the top, write your dream number, maybe $100,000 or $1 million. Now, mark where you are today, even if it's 0 or negative. Every month, update it and watch it grow. Because what you track, you improve. And that's how real wealth begins. Not from having a big salary, but from building the habit of growing your net worth. Trait number 7. Rich people have their money work hard for them. Poor people work hard for their money. Working hard is important, but it won't make you rich on its own. Rich people know this. You work hard for money, then you make money work hard for you. That means creating passive income, money that flows in whether you're working or not. Let me share a story to illustrate this. There was a lady who attended Harv's seminar. At that time, she was considering buying a new house for herself. But after attending the seminar, she realized something. If she invested her money in a rental property instead of buying a house for herself, she could rent it out and live off that income. So that's exactly what she did. The rent she earned was enough to cover her monthly expenses, and she didn't even have to work anymore. But here's the trick. She also lowered her expenses. She moved to a tropical island where the cost of living was cheaper. She built a simple lifestyle and didn't need a fortune to live well. Even though she didn't have to work anymore, she still did. Because she enjoyed it, not because she had to. In fact, she only worked 6 months a year, and the rest of the time, she lived freely on that island. Now, think about this. If she had set her happiness bar too high, like needing a mansion, 3 vacation homes, and 10 cars, it might have taken her a long time to reach that point. Maybe she'll want those things one day, but the first step was to free her time. Becoming free comes first. Becoming a millionaire comes later. So my question to you is this. How much passive income would you need so you never have to work again? $2,000 a month? $3,000? Whatever that number is, write it down. Then find a way to create that amount passively. And remember, at this first stage, it's not just about earning more, it's also about spending less. Maybe that means moving somewhere cheaper, simplifying your lifestyle, or cutting unnecessary costs. Because the smaller your expenses, the sooner your passive income can cover them. Trait number 8. Rich people are excellent receivers. Poor people are poor receivers. Harv once went camping alone in the forest. He set up a tarp to stay dry from the rain. In the morning, he noticed the tarp had kept him dry, but outside a big puddle had formed. Then he realized the rain brings an abundance of water, It just has to flow somewhere. So when one spot stays dry, the other part will be really wet. And money works the same way too. There's a lot of money floating around, and it has to go somewhere. But here's the thing. If somebody isn't willing to receive, it will flow to whoever will. Look, some people unconsciously block wealth because they are uncomfortable with receiving. There are two main reasons for this. First, they feel they don't deserve a lot of money. Imagine a squirrel saying, "I'm not going to collect mini nuts this year to prepare for winter because I'm not worthy." Ridiculous, right? Second, they think it's better to give than to receive. But when you're not willing to fully receive, you are training the universe not to give you. Look, rich people are excellent receivers because they know the rule. The more open you are to receiving, the more abundance can flow through your life. So here's what you can do. Learn to receive just as much as you love to give. When someone offers you help, let them. When someone gives you something, accept it with gratitude and say thanks. Someone compliments you, say thank you. Stop saying things like, "Really? I feel like I look awful," or "It's nothing special." And here's a bonus tip. You have to give to yourself too. That's why Harv suggests spending 10% of your income every month on things that make you feel rich. It helps you feel worthy and strengthens your receiving muscle. Trait number 9. Rich people get paid based on results. Poor people get paid based on time. There was a public relations consultant who offered Harv her media coverage service. Her price was $4,000 per month. When Harv asked what he'd get, she said he'd get at least $20,000 worth of media coverage each month. But then he asked, "What if you don't produce those results?" And she replied, "I'd still be putting in the time, so I deserve to get paid." But Harv had a different idea. He offered that consultant 50% of whatever results she produced. For example, if Harv could get $20,000 worth of media coverage, she'd get $10,000, more than double what she asked for. Did she take it? Nope. Is she broke? Yes. Look, rich people trade results for money. They take profits, commissions, or percentages because they believe in their value, so they are willing to take the risks. On the other hand, poor people trade time for money. Think of salaries, because that feels safe. The problem with trading time for money is your time is limited. This puts a limit on income. So here's Harv's advice. If you work at a company, negotiate to get paid based on your performance, not a fixed salary. Tie at least a portion of your income to performance. And if that's not possible, start your own business where your income depends on results. Trait number 10. Rich people associate with positive, successful people. Poor people associate with negative or unsuccessful people. When I started this channel, I had to read a lot of books like this one. After a while, I noticed something strange. My thinking and beliefs started to change because I'd stopped hanging around with people in my life and had started hanging around successful people instead. Even though it was through books, it still impacted me. The brain doesn't know the difference. It just absorbs it. That's why rich people hang around with winners. On the other hand, if you hang around with complainers, you'll soon be complaining. Negative people will drag you down to their level. Positive, successful people will pull you up to theirs. The lesson is simple. If you want to fly with the eagles, don't swim with the ducks. Find successful people you can be close with. If you can't find them around you, find them online. Watch their interviews, their videos, and read their books. Success is contagious. It's almost impossible not to win when you're constantly around people who are winning. Trait number 11. Rich people believe, I create my life. Poor people believe, life happens to me. Have you ever seen rich people play the lottery? Most likely not, because they believe, I create my own life. Only poor people play the lottery because they want someone else to pick up their name. Why? Because they believe life happens to me. When you believe life happens to you, you slip into victim mode. The victim does three things. First, for anything that happens in their life, they always blame someone else. It's the government, the economy, my boss, my parents. Second, they justify that money is not that important. Look, if you think money is not important, you simply won't have any. If you think a motorcycle or even a cat is not important, then you won't have it. Third, they complain. Complainers literally become crap magnets. When you complain about what's wrong, you attract more things to complain about. Here's what you can do. Shift your mindset from life happens to me to I create my life. Anything happens. Don't complain or blame anyone. Not just out loud, but in your head as well. Keep in mind, I create my life. With this mindset, you will find ways to solve any challenge you're going through. Trait number 12. Rich people aim to be rich. Poor people aim to have just enough. When Harv was broke, he needed to borrow $1 to fill his car with gas. It was embarrassing. Years later, he made it to the middle class. Life was better. He could finally go out to nicer restaurants. However, before ordering any food, he had to first look at the right side of the menu, the price. When the waiter asked, "What would you like for dinner, dear?" So he'd start by looking at the price, then say, "I'll have this $7.95 dish. Let's see what it is. Surprise, surprise, it's chicken." Again. For the 19th time that week. Now that he's rich, he doesn't need to look at the price anymore. He eats what he wants, no matter the price. Look, poor people's big goal is to have enough to pay the bills. When you intend to have just enough, that's exactly how much you'll get. Middle-class people want to be comfortable. When you're comfortable, you don't dare look at the bottom of the menu. Why? Because it's expensive. If you want to get rich, your goal has to be rich. Rich means rich. Not just enough to pay the bills and not just enough to be comfortable. So here's what you need to do. Write down your rich goal. How much do you want to achieve every month? If you shoot for the stars, you'll at least hit the moon. Poor people don't even shoot for the ceiling in their house. Trait number 13. Rich people are committed to being rich. Poor people want to be rich. Imagine going to a cafe and the waiter asks, "What would you like to drink, sir?" Then you say, just bring me anything." Minutes later, the waiter brings you a plain water. And then you ask, "Why'd you just bring me plain water?" "Because you said anything, sir." Look, the number one reason most people don't get what they want is they don't know what they want. Rich people know exactly what they want. They are clear with how their rich life looks like. For example, they are clear. They want to earn $30,000 per month without having to work 9 to 5. They want to travel every quarter, eat out every week, and order anything without looking at the price. Because they're clear with what they want, they commit to it. They're willing to commit to working 16 hours a day. They're willing to commit to working 7 days a week and give up most of their weekends. They're willing to sacrifice time with family and friends and put hobbies on hold because they know it's temporary. Poor people? Ask them if they want to be rich and they'll say, "Of course I want to be rich." However, deep inside, they have mixed internal messages about being rich. One part of them says, having more money will make life more fun. But another part says, yeah, but I'm going to have to work a lot. What fun is that? So they just wish to be rich without being truly committed to making it happen. So here's what you can do. Imagine your rich life. What do you really want? Be clear, write it down, and put it somewhere you can see every day. If you don't see it, you might forget it. Then commit to working hard to make it happen. Trait number 14. Rich people focus on opportunities, poor people focus on obstacles. When Harv was young, he thought about opening an all-night dessert cafe, so he did some research. The best locations for a cafe, the equipment needed, the kinds of cakes, ice cream, coffee, and all that. But then he realized research alone wouldn't move him forward. He needed to get in the game and experience it. So he took a job at a pie shop and learned everything he could from the bakers and the manager. But by the time he understood the business, he realized a cafe business wasn't something he truly wanted. And that's something he never would have known if he had just kept researching. And here's the plot twist. After he quit, the baker called him about a new pair of exercise boots. Harv loved the idea, started selling them to fitness stores, and that experience led him to open his own fitness shop, the one that made him his first million. Look, the lesson learned here is simple. You just need to get in the game. Don't just research to come out with the perfect plan. Just do it and adjust later. Rich people research just enough, then act. They trust themselves to handle problems as they come. Poor people don't trust themselves. They believe they have to know everything in advance, which is impossible. No one sees the whole path before they start. Now, here's what you need to do. While others are still preparing for the perfect plan, you act like rich people. You see an opportunity, jump on it. Adjust as you go. Trait number 15. Rich people are bigger than their problems. Poor people are smaller than their problems. Getting rich isn't a walk in the park. It's a journey full of twists, detours, and challenges. That's why not everyone is willing to go through it. Look, the secret of success is not to avoid problems. It's to grow yourself bigger than your problems. Think of a scale from 1 to 10. If you're a level 2 person facing a level 5 problem, that problem looks huge. But if you grow into a level 10 person, that same level 5 problem becomes small. Look, whether you're rich or poor, playing big or small, problems don't go away. The level of the problem doesn't matter. What matters is your level. The bigger the problems you can handle, the bigger the business you can handle. The bigger the responsibility you can handle, the more money you can handle, and that means the more wealth you can handle. Your wealth can only grow to the extent that you do. Trait number 16. Rich people act in spite of fear. Poor people let fear stop them. There was a time when Harv was teaching a seminar in Seattle, in the US. Near the end, he promoted a 3-day seminar being held in Vancouver, Canada. It's a 3-hour drive from Seattle. A man stood up and praised that seminar, saying his friends' lives had been changed by it. But then he said, "If you make it here in Seattle instead of Vancouver, I'll come too." Harv thanked him and asked if he was open to coaching. When the man agreed, Harv said, "I have 3 words for you. You're frickin' broke." The room went silent. Then Harv asked how he was doing financially, and the man said, "Not too good." So Harv replied, "If a 3-hour drive or even a 3-day trip can stop you, then what else can stop you? Anything." Look, if you want to create wealth, you have to be willing to do whatever it takes. Rich people act in spite of discomfort, but poor people, they're unwilling to be uncomfortable. Harv says a true warrior learns to tame the cobra of fear. You don't kill it. You don't run from it. You tame it and keep moving instead. The lesson for you is this. Practice getting out of your comfort zone. Make decisions that are uncomfortable for you. Talk to people you normally wouldn't. Ask for a raise at your job or raise your prices in your business. Trait number 17. Poor people think they already know it. Rich people constantly learn and grow. Let me ask you something. How do you know that you actually know something? Here's the answer. If you live it, you know it. Otherwise, you've just heard about it, read about it, or talked about it. If you're not financially free, fit, and happy, you still have a lot to learn about money, fitness, and happiness. It's that simple. The key difference is this. Poor people think they already know it. Rich people are constantly learning and growing. They take advice from people who are richer and smarter than they are. Look, when Harv was in his 20s, he started several businesses. But then, he still didn't make much money. One day, a wise man told him, "Harv, if you're not as successful as you'd like, there's something you don't know." Harv thought the man was wrong. He had learned everything about money and business, but still his bank account didn't reflect it. So he took the advice and shifted from, "I've already known it all," to, "I've got to learn." After learning, he found out there was one big thing he didn't know. Money blueprint. At that time, his money blueprint was set to broke. So no matter how much business and financial tricks he had, it wouldn't make him rich. To fix that, he first needed to fix his mind programming. And that I'll explain in part 2, Money Blueprint. All right, you've probably heard stories of rich people who lost their money, but they came back rich again, right? And I'm pretty sure you've also heard stories of lottery winners who went back to their old financial state. So why does that happen? That's how the money blueprint works. Think of it like a computer program installed in your subconscious. Whatever program you install, that's how it runs. If your mind is programmed to be rich, you'll start thinking like a rich person, even if you've lost money. When you start thinking like a rich person, you'll feel like one. And when you feel like one, you'll act like one. And eventually, as a result of your action, you'll become one. That's how your programming creates your results. Now, here's the question. How do we set out our blueprint to be rich? The answer is install 17 wealth files that we've discussed earlier so that you can start thinking like a rich person. But before you do that, you also need to uninstall the bad programming. There are 3 types of programming. 1, modeling, what you saw as a child. 2, specific incidents, what you went through as a child. 3, verbal programming, what you heard as a child. Let me give you an example for each. Number 1, modeling, what you saw as a child. When Harv was growing up, his father was a home builder. Every time he started a new house project, he needed a large sum of money. So cash was tight for the family. If Harv asked for money, his father would get angry. But once the houses were sold, the cash started flooding in, and his dad became kind, happy, and generous again. But not for long. Soon after, he'd find a new piece of land and start building again. When Harv grew up, he started a project-based business. And what happened? He'd make a fortune, but not long after, he'd be broke again. The cycle repeated for 10 years before he finally realized the problem wasn't his business, his partners, his employees, or even the economy. He was unconsciously reliving his dad's income pattern, the same ups and downs. With this kind of money blueprint, 2 things can happen. First, the subconscious mind might say, "Use it now before it's gone." Second, some people might go the other way, hoarding money and saving for a rainy day. But here's the thing. There's an old saying, if you save for a rainy day, what do you get? Rainy days. So instead of saving for a rainy day or spending it all, replace that thought with saving for a joyous day, the day you achieve financial freedom. Then, by the law of intention, that's exactly what you'll get. Number 2, specific incidents, what you went through as a child. There was a woman who had a good income, but somehow she always ended up spending all her money. After looking deeper into her past, it turned out that when she was a child, her father died of a heart attack, right after having yet another fight with her mom about money. That moment caused her subconscious mind to link money with pain. So, to avoid the pain, she got rid of the money. without even realizing it. For example, she might have saved some money, but when she saw a winter coat on sale, she'd just spend that saving. If she had a rich money blueprint, she'd think like a rich person, like the 17 traits we discussed earlier. Rich people save for financial freedom, not to spend it just like that. Number 3, verbal programming. What you heard as a child. Stephen was making $800,000 a year for 9 years straight, but he always lost it. It turns out that when he was a child, he always heard his mom say, "Rich people are greedy. They make their money off the sweat of the poor. You should have just enough to get by. After that, you're a pig." So, with that kind of bad programming, his thoughts, feelings, and actions all lined up with someone who didn't want to be rich. As a result, when he earned more, he'd take just enough for himself. And the rest, his mind unconsciously found ways to lose it. He'd either spend it recklessly, lend it out, or lose it to poor investments. Otherwise, he'd be a pig. So, to set your money blueprint to become rich, be aware of any bad programming that might have been installed in your mind when you were a child. Then replace the old story with a new, empowering one, and start installing the 17 well files we talked about earlier. All right, before I end, you might be wondering, how do I actually reprogram my mind? That's something the book doesn't go into in detail. So I want to share a video I summarized before on how to reprogram your mind. It's the book written by Dr. Joe Dispenza. To learn about it, click the video on your screen now. Thanks for watching.